Hi, I'm Jean Grossbeck with the Grossbeck Group and Compass Real Estate, and I wanted to share with you some things that I heard this week in webinars and in a couple of podcasts concerning what is currently going on with COVID-19 and how that could impact the housing market. One of the things that this event has felt like to me is more 9/11 and when the planes crashed into the tower, it was unexpected, it was horrific, it was very frightening, and really the world just stopped, at least my world stopped, um, as we watched the horror and what was going on. This feels not maybe as sudden, but certainly as surprising as that. We never really thought that we were going to see a pandemic in our lifetime, although there were many scientists that warned of it. But one of the things that one of the webinars I was on pointed out is that the impact on housing of this event could be more like 9/11, and that was that the S&P crashed, lost 45% of value. Stock market currently has lost a tremendous amount of value. It's come back a little, but it's bouncing around significantly less than it was. But meanwhile, housing prices then and now, at least short term, are very, very steady. Going into this situation, we had a very strong seller's market, very high demand. And although there will be some people that choose not to move or unable to move, there will still be a lot of demand for housing in our area. And I live in Anacortes, and I primarily work Skagit County and North Whidbey. Another factor that's really in our favor are the low interest rates. I had a client today that was able to get a loan under 3.5%. So the 30-year fixed rates are very good. And of course, that helps to booster up the price of housing. So this difference in what we're going through compared to 2007, 8, 9, that was a housing crisis. What we're currently in is a medical crisis, very different. Obviously, it's going to impact the economy. No one knows what's going to happen. But Goldman Sachs did say they expect a very deep V. So we will have, from the standpoint of the GDP, a bad second quarter rebounding third and fourth. Perhaps we won't rebound quite that fast, but we should expect at least to finish the year strong, providing that good old American ingenuity is going to enable us to find a vaccine, a treatment, ultimately a cure. And I do believe the American spirit has already shown itself in such remarkable ways. We are so lucky to live here. This is from Wells Fargo. They don't expect the same as 2008 and 2009 as well, because that was caused by bad loans, paper that was bundled and sold. There were drive-by appraisals. By they, I don't mean Wells Fargo, but I mean the lending institutions were allowing zero down loans, and then they were issuing credit cards so that a first-time buyer or young buyers could put closing costs on their credit card. Certainly something that we strongly discouraged, and actually didn't have someone do that I know of, because we said, don't do it. You have no idea that home ownership costs a lot more than rent. This is another slide that I found extremely interesting. This I did not know. In the last 5 recessions, housing has actually increased in 3 of the 5. The big dip, of course, was the last one, and that was caused by housing and the bad loans and people pulling equity out in adjustable rate mortgage. And we all know the series of events that caused that house of cards to fall. We're not going to have foreclosures. Maybe long term, there's always a few, but right now, no one is in danger if they can't make a payment in terms of having foreclosures, and evictions also are put on hold, giving everyone time to get their checks that will be coming theoretically from the government in 3 to 4 weeks, assistance for unemployment, small business owners, low interest loans for small business owners, and even independent contractors are going to get some kind of assistance. Another huge factor was that Americans 3 years prior to the housing crash were refinancing their loans and taking out a large amount of equity. In the 3 years prior to 2007, $824 billion of equity was pulled out and used for sometimes vacations, cars, boats. In the preceding 3 years to today, that total is down to $74 billion. Huge difference. Payment as a percent of income is something that's also much different now. It's down very low. When I bought my first house, the going was kind of 25% was the norm to pay out of your salary for a house payment. And now we see that number is down more like 15%. What about the state of Washington? So real estate is local, and in the state of Washington, we are getting updates frequently because Governor Inslee did order a stay home order, and that in that order, real estate was not deemed essential. He did change that a bit because it became obvious there were people that had sold their home. They were under contract. They could not back out. Their home was sold, and yet they could not go out to look at a home to purchase. There were people that were in a contract, and they needed to be able to do an inspection on a home they were going to buy. So they did lighten up somewhat so that essential real estate services could be conducted. And by that, it means that we can show a house to someone who needs to buy a house. They are pre-qualified, they're ready to buy. They're not just checking out the area, looking to see how much their money can buy, which is how a lot of people start the process. So that's going to make a little bit of a difference, I think, for the rest of the year, because we're not going to have those exploratory home searches that we would normally be having right now. Another change is on inspections. Let me back up a second. On showings, if there are 2 people purchasing the home, only one person can go in the home with the real estate agent. The other person has to wait in the car. Then they can switch, and the agent can show the second person the home. One of the primary reasons for that is just to maintain that 6 feet apart. And we need to obviously accompany people through a home, or responsible for the home. And if you have 2 people and they're both 6 feet apart, it can get difficult. And it also can be very difficult walking in and out of rooms to maintain that 6 feet. Inspectors, the home can be inspected if it's under contract, but the buyer cannot attend the inspection. So we can either FaceTime the entire inspection or FaceTime a summary with the inspector, and he can actually point out any areas of concern. So we're very limited on what we can do. Be driving to show a property in separate cars, and there'll be many precautions that we take. We are going to ask that people either wear booties or leave their shoes outside, and we are going to have to ask for documentation that you are in fact ready to buy, you have a pre-qualification in hand, or you have proof of funds. Now this could change. It could loosen up or it could tighten up. All that we know is that it's likely to change depending on how the virus spreads or is contained. We know that there will be less home sales in April than we would typically expect because of this. And we know that at whatever point we are allowed to resume normal real estate services safely, that there will still be a huge pent-up demand. And we know that it's likely that there's going to be quite a bit of inventory that will hit the market in a short period of time. It's going to make it better for buyers because there's going to be more of a selection. Sellers are going to have their home standing tall and priced right because there will be more competition. But I certainly don't see any reason why housing values in our beautiful area should decline. We may even see that more people would like to leave more urban areas and live here where there is more distance between people. And maybe you've enjoyed a slower pace of life this last week, probably anxious to get back to your life, but you may think, I wish it wasn't quite that hectic. So if you feel that way, Skagit County is a great place to come. We'll keep you updated of the changes in the market. I'm Jean Grossback. I work with Tabby Perrone, Eileen Abear, and Summer Heaton in Anacortes, and we'll keep you up to date. But if you have questions, do reach out to anyone in the Grossbeck group, and we'd be happy to answer your real estate questions. Please do follow the guidelines. Stay safe for yourself and also your family.